Welcome to the Warehouse. Has a Sunday sermon ever left you running to Google with new theological questions? Have you ever wished you could peer behind the curtain and see how a message comes together? That's where we come in. Here at Cornerstone Church, we spend hours every week talking about Scripture. This is the place to learn about passages, dive into their context, and study the Bible's cultural background. Come to the Warehouse, where we extend what you learn from the stage.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Warehouse podcast. Today I have with me Parker Robbins.
Hello.
Morgan Jones.
What up?
And me, I am Stephanie McCroy. If you have not listened to this before, this is all of our names. Parker's kind of just a new person for today.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I appreciate
I'm kidding.
that.
He's one of our residents. He's been on here a few times with us.
Yes, you can call me Parker too.
Yeah, or the other Parker is.
Oh, I like Parker too better. That at least gives me some sort of identity.
I still like the other Parker.
Okay.
Okay, so our question today is, Morgan, what is it?
It's our favorite. So this was one that, so I used to work in a movie theater. Sorry, I'm stuttering to this question because this excites me actually. So I used to work in a movie theater. So I have like the slew of all of the snacks. So what is like your favorite movie theater snack?
Stephanie, you go first. I got to think about this one.
No, you go.
Oh, mine's boring. Gosh, I would say just like a large popcorn and a large drink. That's consistently what I get.
Mm-hmm.
And then like on a bougie night, I'll get Airhead Extremes as well.
Ooh.
And I'll mix it like with the popcorn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you put butter and salt on your popcorn?
Yes.
Okay.
And I made that sound weird. I made it sound like I dump my Airhead Extreme
That's what I
squares into the popcorn, which honestly, that doesn't sound awful.
It does.
But
Yeah, no, it does.
But I eat a piece of popcorn and then I eat a Airhead Extreme and then I take a drink of Dr. Pepper.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
you have a system.
It's extremely unhealthy and I feel awful by the time the movie's done, but like, I don't know, that's just what I've always done, so.
How do you guys feel about the new like Coke machines? I mean, they're not new. They've been there for like 10 years now, but they're new to me.
Yeah, they stink.
I hate them.
Yeah, they're not good.
Why do you
No.
guys hate them?
They're not as good as they used to be.
It's just not as carbonated,
Yeah.
really.
There's
The
something
flavor's
missing.
off because I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Something's missing.
I miss like the real soda syrup.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
I didn't realize they were different.
Oh, so
Oh.
different.
What the
Dude.
heck?
You're missing
Come
out,
on.
Parker.
Yeah.
Come on, get it together.
Dang.
Okay, so my favorite movie theater snack would be Reese's Pieces
Mm.
with buttered popcorn. And I am dumping that in there.
That makes more sense because it's chocolate, not like sour.
I mean,
I
Yeah.
am
Go big or
not
go
clicking with why this makes sense, but that's okay. If people like that, that's good for you.
sweet and
Yeah.
salty.
Yeah.
I guess.
Think about like how they have popcorn that like they put chocolate on it. you
Yeah,
know?
I've heard of that too. I still don't get it. Just because you can does not mean you should.
I disagree.
Okay. That's fine. Agree to disagree. My favorite snack is, so I love the icy. I'm like a little kid, get a Slurpee, whatever, mix all the flavors together. It doesn't matter, red, blue. If they have the Coke one, that's delicious too. Just love
The white one?
icy. Yeah, sure. The white one, they're all there. Yeah. If they have
the
it,
white one.
put it in there. Drink it. It's good. And I also was always a really big fan of hot pretzel with nacho cheese. That was so good. But they started changing it at the movie theater in Mount Vernon. It used to be like a real pretzel that they would actually butter and salt in front of you. And then they just started doing these little pretzel bites that were like pre-frozen, pre-whatever, and warmed them up, and they weren't as good. But yeah, I love it. Pretzel, Slurpee. Of course, you got to get popcorn. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm spending like $100 here for snacks. So, yeah.
But no candy?
I don't like candy at the movie theater as much. No, I'm more of a savory guy at the movie
They
theater.
do have those cookie dough bites. Those are good.
Yeah, cookie dough bites are good.
I forgot about those.
I have to save money somewhere, so I think I just cut it off at the candy since I already
Right.
bought like 4
Yeah.
meals.
Why
at
spend
the-
10 more
yeah.
dollars?
Yeah, right.
Did you see that they have like healthier options at the one in Carbondale now?
Why?
I don't know. There's like kind of like a healthy section. It's
That's
kind
weird.
of
What's in it?
Yeah.
Broccoli, carrots with some ranch dipping.
They got like the cheese wisps. You know what I'm talking about? A little crunchy.
Wisps.
Wisps. They have-
JC's over there going,
Yeah, I know. They're like the baked pieces of just like little wafers of cheese.
Yeah.
They're delightful. I love them.
Do you pay for those at the movie theater?
I've done it like a couple of times, but
Wow.
you can just get them at like Walmart or something and like eat them at home.
Yeah, that seems like
way
a cheaper option.
Yeah.
All right. How are we going to bring this together with...
Oh, there is no connection. You just have to jump in.
Are you sure? I think we could be like...
You could try. It would be very forced.
Guarding ourselves from spending too much money at the movies. I don't know. I don't have it. Okay, so we are on week 4 of Guard. We're going through Mark 2:23 through 28. This week, actually, Nathan will be doing a teaching, which will be great. And that's why he's not joining us on the podcast today. So last time you were with us, Parker, Morgan was out because he was teaching.
Yes.
Nice.
I missed him.
You're just Mr. Replacement.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey, it's okay. I used to be Mr. Replacement.
You were.
Aw.
Yeah, so maybe eventually you'll move up.
Oh, gosh.
Probably not, but maybe. Yeah.
Ooh, I thought of a good transition.
Okay, go for it.
Because going to the theater sometimes brings you rest.
Oh, look
Yeah,
at you.
That's why we thought of
What
this
are we
question.
talking about
That's a
today?
lie, but we're talking about Sabbath.
Hey, there
Yeah.
it is. I love it. Good
Mhm.
job.
Yeah.
All right. So what is your big idea, Morgan?
Mine is very simple. It's God wants us to rest in Him.
I didn't have one, so I just stole Jesus's from this text. The
You
Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath.
I'm like, wait, I got it now. And then mine was God created Sabbath to benefit humanity, not to dominate humanity.
Nice.
Thanks, guys. All right, context.
I think you're going to knock context out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit, but you had the bulk of it.
Yep, and I'll just add to yours.
Okay, sounds good. So among the 4 Gospels, Mark was the most neglected by the early church. So although all 4 Gospels are technically anonymous, early church tradition attributes the second Gospel to John Mark, likely due to his close association with Barnabas. We see that in Colossians 4:10. And his mother Mary, a prominent figure in the Jerusalem church, Acts 12:12. And this attribution is likely accurate as it's improbable that the church would invent a tradition where this would be like obscure for them to even think it would be him. Because they could have picked somebody else that would have been a better.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. Like they wouldn't, if they wanted this to be a story that everyone believed and they were making it up, they would have picked somebody that would have been way more prominent than this guy who is pretty much not a nobody, but close to a nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
It is by far the shortest of the 4 Gospels. 90% of its stories are found in either Matthew or Luke. Augustine considered Mark to be a mere abbreviation of Matthew and Luke. And also Mark's gospel differs from its counterparts with less polished, and it lacks an elegance where Luke and Matthew are more thematic. And Mark is known for its problem passages. So go ahead.
You're saying that Mark is like a shortened version of Luke and Matthew?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And so most scholars say that key sources came from Mark's gospel, and Matthew and Luke used Mark's gospel to help.
Yeah, flesh it out more and all of that. So we're saying that Mark's came first. Gotcha. Sweet.
And then, so his gospel is also structured around 2 main themes: the identity of Jesus as Messiah and Son of God in the first half of the book. So we see that Mark 1 through 8:30. And then we see the mission of Jesus in the second half, Mark 8:31 through 16:8.
Yeah. Something I said yesterday, whenever I heard people say that Mark was heavenly was heavily influenced by Peter, I never got an answer that I was satisfied with. So I kind of dove into that a little bit.
I really liked how you did this too, by the way. It was really good for me yesterday to hear all the things.
Well, like I said last week, I get a lot of my information from the ESV Study Bible, which is a great resource. I really highly recommend it. And there's two evidences towards Peter's like basically influence in this. A lot of it's actually evident just from Papias, bishop of Hierapolis, which was preserved by Eusebius of Caesarea, who was one of the early church fathers, just affirming that like Peter was the one that was like kind of in charge of this, and how John Mark was just kind of his scribe. And Papias was alive around 120, so he was around like right around that time, or right after they would have been, probably putting this into some sort of like finished work or something. And then there's just the practical aspects of Mark. So there is actually very similar structure in Peter's Caesarea speech in Acts 10:34 through 43, and the Gospel of Mark. So they're very similar in structure. So there's that. There's also the fact that Mark's Gospel is very detailed when talking about scenes with Peter. And then also it talks noticeably about the weakness of Peter and the other disciples, and it actually goes out of its way to kind of like omit praiseworthy scenes of Peter that Luke and Matthew reference quite a bit. So it's almost like he didn't want to like bring too much praise to himself. So, but then Luke and Matthew, they were more willing to like add those sections because, if you were writing something about Jesus, you don't want to bring yourself praise, and we see that character in Peter a lot. So
I thought that was really cool that you brought that part up yesterday. Just the idea that I was thinking about, if I were writing a story and I was involved in it, that I would be less apt to put like this, like I wouldn't want to talk myself up as much. And that's kind of what you see in this is, man, the bad stuff's getting drawn out of it, which is what we tend to do as humans a lot of time. When we reflect, we're like, I messed up here, or I wasn't perfect in this situation. We don't tend to look at the positive. So it's like a very human thing. So I loved that. And I think adding on to that a little bit, and I just thought this was super cool, was that Mark being so close to Peter, it's fun to think of. This isn't necessarily true, but there is some extra biblical stuff that pointed to Peter intending to put down all of his experiences and his memories of Christ at some point. And being so closely associated with Mark, he probably passed all these things down to him. So in theory, this is kind of like a Peter's gospel, which is just kind of cool to think of. Like it is Mark's, but at the same time, a lot of this stuff came from Peter, since Mark wasn't the eyewitness of all of it, and he was getting it from other people, and probably a lot of it from Peter.
Yeah. That's just so cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And it would have been written around between 60 and 70 AD, right?
Yeah, we said this is the first one ever written, right?
Yes.
Mark was the first gospel.
Yeah, which also points to a lot of like what you were saying about it being kind of choppy and not all polished. If it's the first one, it's probably the first of its kind of all these stories being put together of Jesus. Like Mark was the first one, like trying his hand at like writing a gospel, which I think is also cool to think about. Like that's why it's a little shorter, why it doesn't seem as flowy as maybe like a Luke's does, where there's all this time and pulling from other stuff. Like Mark was he was kind of like the first guy to really try to do this.
Yeah, and if you think of it from, this is totally speculation. It's not, this is just Stephanie. But if they did have, like Luke was using Mark's as a referencing point, and knowing that Luke was actually like a huge researcher, and he sees Mark's stories and he's like, hey, actually, I want to go find out more information on this, that this happened, and using that as a touching point.
Right.
So again, I'm not saying that that's what it is for sure.
Yeah,
but
that's what the ESV Study Bible
Oh,
points
cool,
to.
cool, cool.
It talks also about early church tradition as well, talking about how Peter was like writing it in Rome and all of that, and it was written before Luke's and Matthew's Gospels. So that's kind of just with the context of Luke and Matthew. Like it all just seems like it points to they were getting stuff from Mark's Gospel. So. Yeah.
So more immediate context. There's a key word throughout the first half of Mark's gospel, and it's authority. So everything Jesus does is with authority. We see that in this text that we're getting ready to dive into. And this is also the fourth of the 5 controversies that Jesus had with the religious leaders. The first one is whenever his claim to be God and forgive sins. And then him to be associated with sinners, and then criticized him for not adhering to the fasting traditions. And now this one, they're upset because of the Sabbath. So we see that in this story, and then also in the beginning of Mark 3, 1-6.
Yeah.
With the healing of the paralytic man, which in that chapter is whenever the Pharisees are like, okay, now we've got to figure out how to get rid of this guy by the end of that verse.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things that I think is fairly important with this is maybe you don't know exactly what a Pharisee is, like what they really did. So Pharisees would have been these really popular Jewish leaders who would have been connected to a local synagogue. People would have looked to them for teaching, and they would have been known as people who knew the Mosaic law inside and out, like the back of their hand. Could recite it, would have read everything, 100 times over. I mean, like this was their jam. Like they knew what their Bible said. And one of the things that I think is interesting about this is through those oppositions that Stephanie was just talking about, is all of them have to do with opposition to these Pharisees, like Jesus and his disciples and the Pharisees, and the way that they viewed that he was acting as rabbi, as teacher in the wrong way. So yeah, it's just interesting to see that these are the people who they would have known everything. They would have been super smart, super educated, and like they're looking at the way Jesus is doing it, and what we know about Jesus, but they're looking at him and they're like, what in the world? This dude is not doing it the right way. This goes against everything that we have been teaching. And also, like they had they had a knack for creating these extra traditions. So that's what we're going to see in our passage. So just the context behind that, of one of the things that they had a ton of was extra Sabbath laws. So we know that that the Sabbath was a commandment, and it was something that they were supposed to follow. But the Pharisees they had like I think, what was it, 39 extra things that had to go into the Sabbath of like rules to follow. And it was like all kinds of little stuff about how many sticks you could carry, or when you could tie a knot and when you couldn't tie a knot, and what was able to happen on the Sabbath. And none of it was actually what God had commanded them to do, but it was stuff that they had devised and came up with that made it go beyond the law.
Yeah, and I think somebody brought it up yesterday about how you couldn't carry things with your hands, but you could carry it with the back of your hand or your foot or your ear.
Yeah.
Like it was like ridiculous things that you probably couldn't do. But I would love to see somebody try to carry something with their ear.
Yeah. Well, didn't you also say that they could like tie stuff to their hair?
Oh,
too?
no, I think I was just joking. But that was
Right.
I mean, honestly,
I mean, you never know.
they had some pretty long hair.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I saw was like when I was talking about tying a knot, so they couldn't tie a knot on the Sabbath.
Yes.
So if they had to bring something up from a well, like they wouldn't be able to tie a rope to it, but it was permissible for a woman to like tie her girdle or tie something around her dress. So they said the way that it would be done traditionally is a woman would tie the bucket to her dress. And that's how they would pull it up, because we weren't allowed to actually use a rope that day. But they could, it's just
just defeats the whole like
yeah.
That's like work. You're working harder, not smarter.
Right.
Yeah. It was more about like what they saw them doing, and like rather than like the actual process of what they were doing.
Yeah.
Very legalistic.
Do you guys have anything else before we hop in?
Jesus, he's very established at this point.
Yeah.
Just like you said, the four what's?
Controversies?
Controversies.
This is the 4th out of the 5.
Yes. And and also on top of that, he's called multiple disciples with him that we've seen. He's rebuked many demons. He's healed publicly. He's preached in multiple towns to this point. And he called a tax collector to follow him, so obviously the Pharisees do not like that. He's cleansed a leper. He's healed paralytics. So yeah, he's well established at this point.
And he hasn't called this specific 12 yet, correct? This is just a whole bunch. It's not until the end of chapter 3 where he appoints the 12.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's it. I think that's all I got context.
Morgan is actually going to read for us today.
Cool.
And we're going to read the whole Oh,
The whole
Oh.
chunk?
yep, there it is.
I don't know what word you're going for. I'm going with chunk.
I was going with section and chunk, and it said sunk.
Okay, we're going to read the whole sunk right now. Let's dive in. So starting with 23, one Sabbath, he was going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. And the Pharisees were saying to him, "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And he said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and was hungry, he and those who were with him? And how he entered the house of God in the time of Abiathar, the high priest, and ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat, and also gave it to those who were with him. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not the man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath."
Boom! You did so good.
I can read, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Good job.
You did so good. Oh, also, just really quick, shout out to Haley, our receptionist.
This was
Yes.
a bad place for this. You could have done this at the end.
No. I want to do it right in the middle, so
Okay.
then we know she's like really paying attention.
Oh, it's just a
gotcha.
test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough.
There's the thing in scripture about testing your friends, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm kidding. Okay. 23, what you got?
All right. So looking at 23, so right here we have them going through the grain fields and they're plucking these heads of grain.
Mhm.
So one thing that the ESV pulls out is that there was a law against, or not against, but like for like how you could take grain from a neighbor's field or like a neighboring field or something like that. And you couldn't do it. I think actually, let me pull it up real quick. Yeah. So it says you go into a neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, but you shall not put any in your bag. If you go into your neighbor's standing grain, you may pluck the ears with your hand, but you shall not put a sickle to your neighbor's standing grain. So this is in Deuteronomy 23, and it's the last two verses, 24 through 25. So the point of that being like there was a way, what they were doing wasn't illegal. What they were actually doing was legal. They're just plucking it with their hands. You couldn't use like a harvesting tool. You couldn't bring an extra bag to like stuff it all in there. This was like the idea of just passing through. You were hungry. You just grabbed a couple off and grabbed a handful and you moved on. So that's kind of like the setup of what's going on and what's happening in verse 23. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Sabbath is, it ran from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, and they did evening to morning. Like their days were considered evening to morning, and so they would do full 24-hour days.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Sabbath was commanded in Scripture. We see that with the 10 Commandments, and then also more fleshed out in like Leviticus. With the Mosaic laws.
Yes. So it says that his disciples began to pluck heads of grains. The Pharisees would have considered this work, right? And we talked about this yesterday. Was that something that they added in the Talmud? Talmud. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So we had a conversation. So during like the closing of Old Testament into the New Testament, there was this time period where I think it was the Mishnah was created, right? And then there's like a whole bunch of little books that went into it as well. I don't want to speak on that too much because I feel like I don't have enough information to say it.
This was definitely something they added. So this is kind of what I was getting at earlier with the context piece of they took something that was just Sabbath, and they added something to it. So you can't do this on this day. So they added to this. Now the rule of like when to pluck and that kind of thing, that was like something completely different. But this was added. Like the fact that they're talking about it on Sabbath when you get into verse 24 was they were saying that what they were doing was wrong because it was on the Sabbath. So their the contention was not what they were doing. It was that when they were doing it was wrong.
Gotcha.
Which we can go ahead and add 24 into that. So I had, according to the Pharisees, the disciples committed a double offense. Firstly, by walking more than 1,999 paces. And secondly, by engaging in reaping. So the plucking.
Yeah.
And I think Nathan said he found something where it possibly could have been corn. One of the other passages I had, it said grains as well. So which could also be corn.
Yeah,
but
like the grains meaning. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, but I can't imagine eating a corn on the cob, just not cooked.
How does raw wheat taste? Is it good?
I don't know.
Didn't Nathan say that he's had raw wheat before?
I think so.
I was listening via like video call yesterday, so I was kind of struggling to hear what you guys were talking about in that part. But I'm pretty sure Tia like makes her own bread.
She does.
Yeah, and she like grinds her own grain. So Nathan was just like, I wonder what this tastes like. And I'm pretty sure he was like, it was awful.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah. But if you're pretty hungry, like you'll eat just about anything.
Yeah. So one of the things that's happening here is, so you see the question of, like, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath? So what we know, and like just big picture, we know that what they are doing is completely legal. The Pharisees' objection is that it's happening on the Sabbath. So Jesus isn't like condoning this action because he never violates God's commands. Jesus would not do that. That doesn't make any sense. Like if you just think about it, like that's just illogical. Jesus is not going to directly violate a command from God. But he will, and what we see oftentimes is he will break man's like legalistic additions to God's law, which is something that you see in all of those. Those 5 things that Stephanie was talking about, like this is most of it that they're upset about is the additions that they've added onto it. And Jesus is like, hey, that's not what God said. This is not the heart of it. This was not the actual law. So we don't have to follow that.
Yes.
Do you guys have anything else for 24?
Nope.
All right, let's add verses 25 and 26 together. So in verse 25, we have where he says, have you never read? So basically Jesus is, I'm going to say like calling him an idiot. Like these people who are supposed to be super smart, know all of the word of God. And he's like, okay, have you not read the story of David? Like when he was in need and he was hungry and he and those who are with him, they entered into the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which that's a big no-no. Like that, the bread of presence was only lawful for the priest to eat. It wasn't lawful for anybody else to eat. And also David lied at that time to get that, to get the bread to eat. But so you found, was it you who said, well, weren't the disciples like really hungry walking through the grain fields?
Yeah, well, I said that whenever I usually just read that, I just assumed they were really hungry if they were going to eat on the Sabbath. And I'm pretty sure one of the other synonymous Gospels, Matthew, right, says that they were hungry.
Yes.
Yeah, so they were in need, like they were hungry. If wheat doesn't taste that good raw, they must have been,
Yeah.
It seems like, but yeah, and that was kind of my own personal tension that I was kind of thinking through yesterday. Whenever Jesus was talking about David and what he did, was he saying that what David did was like right that he did and that it wasn't sinful? Right. So basically, like in the case of need, actions are allowed on Sabbath that otherwise might not be permitted. So that's why he allowed the disciples to eat grain. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because that was a good conversation that we had. How would you say we landed on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I was very confused during that whole section.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody in that room could tell. I was like, wait, hold on. What?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to misspeak for anybody, but for me, I kind of took it in as that way, is like, okay, well, the need of the person means more than the breaking of the law. But there was actually no breaking of law for the disciples, correct?
Right.
Yes.
So, but for David, that would have been breaking a command of the Lord because the Mosaic law would have already been in place. We see that in Exodus and then even more in Leviticus of talking about this, of what they are allowed to do and not do within the temple. So I'm like, okay, so then why is he bringing up this David story? Like, is it to say like, hey, David was allowed to get away with this, why are you guys not making a big deal about David? But yet you guys are making a big deal about this. And that comes from because thinking that like the Jewish people at the time, like they cleaned David's temple. They still kind of like not worshiped him, but
his tomb.
Oh, yes, I said temple. Thank you. But like washed his tomb and made sure it was sparkling clean and all of that. So
they still looked at David as like this, like the golden era of Israel, you know, and then obviously there's areas in David's story where he messed up and scripture doesn't hide that, you know, when Nathan called him out for, the prophet Nathan called him out for,
Thank you.
not Pastor Nathan.
I'm like, wait, what did he do?
When the prophet Nathan called David out for what he did with Bathsheba. So obviously the Israelites knew like this guy wasn't perfect, but they still really like talk about him as if he was like the greatest to ever lived. It almost seems like, so it's like Jesus is almost like saying, you know, you let that pass, right? But you're arguing about this tiny little thing right here. Like he takes it a step further by going back to David, who actually did something that actually like possibly broke the law. I don't remember. Did we actually say that he broke the law? We did.
I think so, because we see in Exodus is whenever God gives all of the laws for like who is supposed to be doing what within the temple, and then we see it again within Levitical law.
Yeah, gotcha.
So the bread of the presence was like it was 12 loaves of unleavened bread that was given to represent like the 12 tribes of Israel, and only the priests were allowed to eat that bread. Yeah.
So in this argument, like Jesus takes it a step further by saying like, you guys don't talk about this, you know, but you're making a big deal about the fact that my disciples are picking grain on the Sabbath, like, which wasn't even breaking the law in the first place.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you have, Morgan?
Well, I think like the big not debate, but like the tension yesterday is so why, like the question you asked, like why is David even being brought up here? Because what his disciples are doing is not against the law. What David did it did break the law. So why bring that up? He's comparing one that was against the law and to a situation now that isn't. So there's like two things that are possible, and I don't even know necessarily which one I fully land on. I don't even know if it's super important because I think maybe both of them are there regardless. But like the one is Jesus condoning what David did and saying that was okay because his people needed to eat and God had mercy on him in this situation because God cares about the needs of his people, and sometimes it's okay to break a command if it means the betterment of the people and taking care of like your needs. Or is Jesus not saying that what David did was okay? Because he actually calls it out and says, hey, which is not lawful. Like he says this was not lawful that he did. So is he not condoning it? And he's simply like just destroying their logic of like, hey, you guys are totally cool with what David did. Like nobody talks about that. You still hold him to this super high regard. You think that he was amazing and great. And he actually like broke a law in this situation. And we're doing something that, and this is not against the law.
Right.
It's something you've added. It's not what God commanded us to do. And you are up in arms about it. So your logic is off. You're cool with one person who actually broke God's law, and you're mad at us for breaking your little command that you came up with. So it can be one of the two. I think I lean more towards him kind of destroying their logic. And also as we get into 27 and 28, I think that there's an underlying thing that's happening in this, which has more to do with authority.
I think you did a really good job explaining that and setting out the two differences. Because whenever you're talking, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. And I'm following and I'm tracking. And I don't think that I'm like, is it okay to break a command? Like, would have been okay? Like, and then I'm like, for the need of the human, but then that's like stretching. I don't know.
It's hard for me to sit in a world or sit in a place where I'm like, yeah, Jesus is cool with breaking God's command.
Yeah. Right.
I can't bring myself fully there.
Right. No, and I get that. Do you guys have anything else for 26 or 25, 26? Oh, go for it.
I was just going to say that it says in the time of Abiathar?
Abiathar.
Abiathar?
Yeah.
You said it different earlier.
I don't think I did. We can replay though. Yeah.
We'll come down to the bottom of this. Anyways, Abiathar, the high priest, which actually, like it says in the time of Abiathar, right? Yes, in the time of Abiathar, because it was actually Ahimelech, or was it Abimelech?
No, Ahimelech.
Ahimelech. It was actually like the whole situation with David was with Ahimelech, the high priest. So that was kind of interesting. And kind of what the ESV Study Bible landed on was that this is specifically saying in the time of Abiathar, because people would have known more about Abiathar. He was more well known. So people would have been like, oh yes, okay, I know the time period he was talking about, even though it was actually Ahimelech that he did this with, but Ahimelech was shortly killed after this because of what he did for David. So Abiathar would have been right after him. So it was in that time period,
Wow.
So that was, I'm assuming that's why Mark said that.
That's good.
Yep. Just a little thing.
No, it's good. 27 and 28.
So the thing that I was getting at earlier with these next two verses that I think kind of helps us come up with a solution for why Jesus brings up this story is in that 28. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. And Stephanie mentioned it earlier, where there's a big emphasis on authority of Jesus declaring his authority, Son of Man, Son of God. He's making it well known in almost every situation where he has like conflict with the Pharisees of like, hey, who are you to question me? I'm the Son of God. So I think in part of what he's doing in this is not condoning what David did, but he's saying like you're holding these different standards, and God is the only one who gets to say what is law and what isn't law. And in this situation, you're coming at us, and you're coming at the Son of God and saying, hey, why are you letting them do this? And he's like, hey, you're cool with what you did, what David did. You don't say anything about that, but you're mad because that we defied your law, and you don't get to say what's law and what's not law. You don't get to say what's good and what's bad. The only one who does is God. And I feel like that is like when you really like you get that last verse of that section right there, it kind of ties it all together. Of Jesus's main point was not necessarily anything to even do with the David story, but more to do with like their logic and the way they thought of themselves. And they held themselves to such a high regard that they thought that they could create things because they knew it better than everyone else, and they were smarter than everyone else. And Jesus is simply saying, you don't have the authority to do that.
Right.
Only I do.
Right. Like they're trying to put all of this legalism on him and like putting a whole bunch of burdens and like unbearable loads for them to carry.
Yep.
And Jesus is like, hey, no, like this is not what this is about. And I love the part where it says the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Sabbath was created for our enjoyment, not for it to be this day that is full of legalism and restrictions. And it's a day that we're supposed to enjoy, to have rest and sitting with the Lord.
Yeah.
And like I had listened to a really good podcast a while back. I mean, it was a long time ago. I always want to say her name wrong, but it's Jenny Allen. And she had John Mark Comer on it. And he was talking about Sabbath and how his Sabbath looks completely different than the rest of the families, because he isn't like basically extroverted and he enjoys being around people. That is what fuels him and like makes him excited. And so where he wouldn't necessarily sit at home all day in the quiet and with lights off and all of that, he would actually be out and doing things because it's what you find joy in the Lord. Like, and I just thought that was really good, because not everybody's Sabbath can look the same. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. There was a good kind of definition in the ESV Study Bible. Jesus states that Sabbath is meant to be a gift for man for physical and spiritual refreshment. And so I also think this is something that's really important, is that like something I said yesterday that wasn't like completely correct was like, okay, well, as long as like for Sabbath, as long as you're doing something that like, oh gosh, I don't remember how I worded it, kind of like diminishing the seriousness of Sabbath is kind of along the words as I was saying. And it's like, God never does like diminish the seriousness of how important the Sabbath is. Like there's reasons why he had such strict, like, laws about keeping the Sabbath in the Old Testament because it's so necessary, like, so I think it's really awesome that like we serve a God that like basically has to like get through our thick skulls as humans, like practice Sabbath. Like you need this. This is for you, right? It's not meant to like, like exhaust you. This is meant to be something that you do to bring refreshment. Like you need to do this. And God was very serious about that in the Old Testament. Like, you got to do this, guys.
Yeah, Nathan brought it up. Like, how cool is our God? Like, day 6, God creates the world, and by day 6, he creates man. And then by day 7, he has him rest. Like, his first day, and he's like, okay, you know what you're going to do? You're going to rest. Like, you're going to enjoy my creation.
Yeah.
So, and then, we also do have where work was there before even the fall. So I just, like, that's another thing. But anywho.
Yeah. It's almost like you can't fully work until you have a day of rest. Almost it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that was a cool thought. Yeah. I like that.
What else you got, Morgan?
The only other thing was just the importance of like what the purpose of Sabbath was, and it was supposed to be a blessing and a gift, and the Pharisees turned it into the opposite of that. So Sabbath meant to be for rest, meant to be a gift, and they created so many extra biblical laws around it, these extra religious practices around it, that they made the Sabbath a job.
Yeah.
And I think that right there is like at the heart of why Jesus is upset about what they're doing is
Absolutely.
1, they don't have the authority to do it, and 2, they completely destroyed the gift that God intended for them to be rest and turned it into work.
That's really good.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Anything you guys want to add? What are you excited about?
I mean, just like I said earlier, what kind of God do we have that genuinely wants rest for us? Like when you think about a God, you think about how can I make like minions that just follow me or that just do things for me that I want done, and we serve a God that's like, I love you so much that I want you to have a day where you just take a day off, like we serve a God that genuinely wants us to find refreshment for our souls, right? And that refreshment's found in him, It's just like, man, it's like if you need any evidence that God's real, like that's what he wants for us. That's something he wants for us. It's like, gosh.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all I have.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. I think you guys said everything that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation.
For sure.
Nathan's going to blow it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I
blow
can't
it
wait.
out of the park. Yeah, you don't know sports terms.
What's
Yeah, no, it's okay.
What is it?
We'll correct you later.
No, it's corrected now. What is it?
Just knock it out of the park. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay. I totally got it. Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah. Do you even know what sport that would refer to?
Baseball.
Okay,
right?
good. You're halfway there.
Good job. Good job.
I did it, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Well,
Cool.
we are thankful you joined us today. Yep. If you have any questions, I'm trying. Like JC and Parker are over there laughing at me, and I'm like just trying to do it. Okay. You can email us at warehouse@cornerstone.team. I can't talk.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Is that it? Is that normally what all we say?
Questions, concerns, make sure to send us like questions about the scripture, about what we talked about. And like we always say, please send in like fun questions we can intro
Right,
this
please.
with. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for finishing that out.
Yeah.
Parker, thanks for joining us again.
Absolutely.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
I'm a boy.
Oh.
Alrighty. The warehouse is closed.